Been starting seeds for a while, and you know, getting pretty good at it, and you want to make some extra income. Well, you know, we do this a lot in our homestead where we sell seedlings, and it's a good side hustle, and there's a couple things to know just to kind of get going. And I'm gonna pass on some of my knowledge. I've been selling seedlings for roughly about 6 years now, I think 5 years or so. And there's just a couple tricks that I want you to know. And then there's a couple rules that I like to follow and I'd like to pass on to everybody else. Before we get started, I just want to give you a little update since we've been doing all this freeze stuff. Last night it was supposed to get to 30 degrees and it hit 19 degrees. So yeah, everything's gonna stay locked up, but we'll see how it goes. We got another 3 days of this roughly. 3 days, but dude, I have words that I'd love to say out loud, but I try to keep this channel pretty clean in case your kids are in the room or you don't approve. But you can think of the word that starts with the 4th letter of the alphabet, maybe it's the 5th, I don't know, and then them comes after it, because it's just kind of ridiculous that they're just so wrong on the forecast. But I don't know. I knew it was going to get cold, I just didn't realize it was going to get that cold. But starting seeds is it's one of the huge parts of what we do. We start all of our own seeds, and we sell seedlings. Well, we sell seeds too, link below, through our podcast. But we also we focus on selling seedlings every year. And there's a trick to it, and it was kind of a rough start. But what I've learned all over the years is pick what you're worth and stay with it, because we're not dealing with people like you and me when you start selling seedlings. You will get some people that are into gardening, really homesteading or whatever, and they want to support a small local business. And when you say small, I mean it's probably going to be just you. It doesn't get any smaller than that, but you can grow with it over time and improve it. It's so cold today, I'm just going to have a seat in the swing and tell you about all this stuff. So yeah, here's the deal. I remember back in COVID, when it first started, you know, everybody was kind of freaking out. Let me try and find a good camera angle for you. And they didn't really know what to do with themselves. And I remember I was looking on Facebook Marketplace one day, as we all did, because there was nothing to do. And I saw somebody selling seedlings, and they were selling them for 25 cents each. Now, these were tomato seedlings, and they were this big. Now, don't do that, okay? If you're going to sell a product that you want to put in your garden, sell somebody something that you would put in your garden. Meaning sell them a healthy, strong, professional seedling, and when they walk out of your property with it or wherever you're selling it, it's ready to go on the ground. They don't have to harden it off. They don't have to do anything but put it in the ground. Don't do that. That's ridiculous. And I mean, I even reached out to him. I was like, look, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, you're not helping anybody out. They're spreading fear about food issues and stuff like that, and they're selling them. The people that were going to be buying them didn't even know how to get them to the next stage. So don't do that, because you never know who your customer is going to be and what they're going to do. So make sure you're giving them strong seedlings and have a solid plan behind growing them. Come on, can't sit still. The other thing too is if you don't really know what you're doing selling seedlings, I would strongly suggest you just start more for yourself and wait a year and get your stuff together, because there is, and we'll talk about equipment and stuff like that we need to do. Because once you start putting it out there to the open, there's more of an expectation. Like, what you do in your garden is fine. You know, maybe you don't put out a strong seedling. Maybe you're not really comfortable. So, you know, some of them are overgrown or undergrown. And it's not a big deal because it's your garden. But once you start putting money into it and people start handing cash over, it becomes a big deal. So, and the biggest thing is the first year is going to be the hardest. But what happens is people start coming back to you, and if they get a good product from you, they're going to come back from you. That's the life and blood of what we do here. So just remember that as we go through, and like I said, if you're not comfortable, just keep going. And also, if you're only comfortable with a certain type of seedling, then just sell that and be done. But don't go crazy and be like, well, I'm going to try this year, and you don't really know what you're doing. You're like, it looks okay. And you know, it doesn't really work out well, because you're not going to get a referral or a return customer from that. You know, they may be unhappy with it. Next thing is equipment. So I'm starting to get some of my trays together. These are the trays that I use. These are, I believe, 64 cell trays, and they work pretty good. I've danced around a couple times. These don't really work great for the final product, but once you get into up potting, they work pretty good. I'm going to go into that just in a second, but remember that when you get somebody a plant, they want to walk away with a nice clean product. And so if you go there, and I've been guilty of this before, I'll have people calling me and I'll say, look, I don't have anything ready, but I can pot it up when you get here, and I'll end up giving them stuff in pots. Onions are really, really bad for that, because sometimes, you know, one cell will have 3 onions, one cell will have 10 onions, and I try to keep it pretty simple, you know, once we get into the pricing portion of this. But if you're doing that, it just takes up their time. And I mean, you got to think about it. More than likely, they're already going to be paying you more than they can get at the store. They're going to get a healthier seedling, generally speaking, as long as you know what you're doing. And they're going to get a different type of a different variety than you can get, which can be a mixed bag there. There's some people that are really concerned about it and some people that aren't. So you're just going to have to work your way through the people and just see, which is a tough part, because you'll get a lot of snarky comments and stuff like that, but you just got to stay strong and focus. So what I found works best is, like, I'll start my tomatoes in those trays over there, and I got some in the greenhouse here. And then what I do is I up pot them to these. So these will be the final product that they would get. And you don't just up pot them the day before. I up pot them, make sure they're well rooted and they're actually showing growth. Another thing for different types of vegetables, you know, like the broccolis and stuff, we can do 6-packs. So these work real well because they can take a 6-pack. I mean, the way I look at it, things have definitely changed. You used to be able to go get a 6-pack of tomatoes right before COVID, and now you can't. So what we're trying to do is match them and match the big box stores. And what that means is, you know, you can go, and you also used to be able to get 6-packs of broccoli, and they took that away. I think now they're down to 4-packs. So by us offering 6-packs, you're already getting more for their money, right? But you don't really want to do tomatoes as 6-packs, because one tomato can produce a lot, and there's a lot of effort that goes into it. So, you know, you're talking months of taking care of a plant so that you can sell it. So it's, you know, the initial investment isn't terrible, because especially your first year, because you really don't know what you're going to sell, what the demand is in your area. But it's the time investment that's in there. It's the watering, the nurturing, the hardening off, the fertilizing, the trimming, the up potting, all that stuff that people are really paying for. If we go back to these trays, if it's not going into a 6-pack as a final product, this is what we start them in. And then you saw what we up them to after that. We use smaller 3-inch pots for zucchinis and squashes and melons and, you know, even cucumbers and stuff like that. We'll use those. We can use 6-packs for those, and we price them all different. So basically the way it works is tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants are all $5 a plant each. And then your 6-packs of, you know, your brassicas, your lettuces, bok choys, all that stuff are $5 for 6 of them, because you're really only getting one harvest off of them. So you want to make it worth their while. And then anything like your cucumbers and squashes and melons and all that, we sell for $3 each, because we don't have to take care of them as long. And so we can basically keep them going and filter them out constantly. So that's how we work our pricing on it. And the one thing that helped me is I learned a long time ago, I was looking into going to get starting to sell vegetables, and I decided not to, because it was just too much space was required. But when I started reading a lot about pricing and stuff like that, and the same goes for the seedlings at the box stores, what they said was the grocery store sells it at a loss, because they know if you're coming in there to make tacos, you're going to buy meat typically, or beans, whatever, if you're vegan, vegetables, and then you're going to get all the sides and trimmings for it. So they make up that cost on the back end. Same with the big box stores. They're going to sell their They're plants for one number, which is typically higher than what we're selling them for anyways. But then on top of that, you're going to go in there, you're going to buy soil, you'll buy a pot, you'll buy a tool, we're going to buy fertilizer, a watering can. You know, so they'll make up that cost around the board, but we're not. But what we're doing is we're giving them a quality product that's different than what they can get there. So when you grow a garden, that you take pride in the different varieties that you can grow as we peek in some of these tunnels. And you know, these are not varieties that you get at the store. The varieties I grow are specialized for our area, so that works out well. And some of them are just different, and some people want that. But what I've noticed is, because you get so many seedlings from the stores, people want Bonnie peppers. I had a gentleman come up here, I had peppers flying off the shelf, and he was like, man, I need 10 plants of peppers. And I was like, sure, no problem. And he says, you got Bonnie peppers? And I said, no. He's like, that's all I grow. I don't grow anything else but Bonnie because it grows great. And I was like, dude, it's a pepper. You know what I mean? Like, this is different, yes, and people are like that. So you have to understand that, which is why I'm kind of getting out of the plant selling business a little bit. What I've gotten into now is just working with specific people. So I have people request, and I'll do that. Other than that, like the general population, I don't have the patience for it. So it is what it is. I've done farmers markets. If you go to a farmers market, the trick is find yourself a market that's labeled a farmers market. And what I'm starting to see is a lot of the farmers markets around are really just crappy flea markets, but they're labeled farmers markets. So when you show up with your plants, you will outsell everybody, because people want to go to a farmer's market and get products like this. So first time I went to a farmer's market, people were sitting there with their jaw open, and I was just hustling plants as fast as I could, to the tune of where, like, I did my whole grow out all winter, and in one day I was done. You know, I walked away with a couple thousand in my pocket. I had nothing else to sell. So I had people calling me and it was nothing else. So it kind of worked out that way. Now, there is a table fee for some of them, so be careful with that. You know, you got to do the analysis, like if it's $1,000, or, you know, let's not even say 1,000, because usually that's like a whole year. Let's say it's like $20. Well, I have to sell 4 tomatoes just to make up for that table, and you never know what's going to happen. So that's kind of the issue that I have. Now, the other thing you can do is you can utilize like Facebook Marketplace. That's a really good way. I mean, you get a lot of stupid questions and stuff like that, but you meet a lot of people, and it's a good way to get out there. And especially when you're small, you can kind of keep up with that volume to an extent. So do that. But the real question is, what varieties do I sell? Like, what plants do I sell? And again, you have to remember, these aren't people like you and I, typically speaking, where they're really into gardening and they're watching Sandy Bottom Homestead as he stands outside. By the way, it's 23 degrees outside right now, in coastal North Carolina. And you know, they're not homesteaders. Some people just have a small garden. They want to grow a few things, and you have to respect that and not judge them any way. But you have to understand and that's the majority of the people, but what are they really going to buy? The very first thing I learned is just because I grow in fall and in the winter, it doesn't mean anybody else does. So my sales in spring will be nonstop, but my fall will be basically none. And I would end up just having plants everywhere. So you have to understand that just because you can do it doesn't mean everybody else does it. And the majority of people will get out of gardening in the fall and not even give it up. And no matter where you are, they just don't really care about it. Look, it's the middle of winter basically, and you're watching a gardening video about gardening, so you're already different than everybody else. But you know, so we have to understand that. And then the other thing too I've learned is you just keep it simple, stupid. I mean, every time I think of anything, it's always that comes into my head, and it's so true. Tomatoes, peppers, you know, onions work out pretty good. Lettuces, they do okay. Zucchinis and squashes are kind of hit and miss, and I understand that because they're so easy to grow direct sowed, but still it doesn't hurt to have some on hand. But you know, eggplants, no. Broccolis, I mean, dude, I've probably sold, I would say I've sold maybe 150 broccoli plants, and I'm not lying, when I come to tomatoes alone, I've probably sold a couple thousand in the past couple of years, and then onions, I've sold thousands and thousands of them. So, you know, it's a mixed bag of what you're gonna get, but we started off and we had a whole bunch of stuff available, and then we just kind of dwindled it down little by little, and so we really figured it out, you know. So what we did is we offered cherry tomatoes, regular tomatoes, hot peppers, sweet peppers. Hot peppers actually do a lot better in my area. We offered different melons and stuff like that. Melons didn't do good. Zucchinis did well. Summer squash did a little bit less. So, you know, we kind of balanced it around. And then in the fall here, collards are really big, so we can actually sell some collards. But what we find is people are wanting to plant in spring what they should have already planted. And so we're constantly battling people planting at the wrong time and trying to say like, hey, no, now's the time, now's the time. So when you get your product ready to go, put it up as soon as it's ready, because that'll trigger people to say, hey, maybe it's time to plant. And when they contact you, be prepared to have a conversation, because what happens is somebody will come and they'll want one plant and they'll walk away with 20. So, I mean, it's just like you and I. If we go to a garden center, I mean, how many times have you walked in there and just got one flower? You walk out with a whole bag of them. So it's the same way, because people don't realize what all you have available to you. And when you make your post on Facebook Marketplace, make a post for each individual variety that you have, and then make a post for all of them together, and you just keep doing it, and make sure people see your stuff and take good photos. This is where everything in the channel starts to come together, because timing is everything for selling seedlings and getting them out there and getting them in your garden on top of that. So keep track of it, get your timing down. Don't be late to the game, because what happens invariably, there's two things that happen. One is people will start their gardens really early, they'll get a frost, they'll die, and then they'll have to buy more. Well, they're not going to go back to the person that sold it to them too early, because they sold it to them too early. So spread your knowledge, spread it out there, and let them help people. But the other thing is too, is you're going to get late bloomers that come. People that are like, you know what, I'll start a garden, or they wait until the last minute. So you want to be right in that sweet spot. But I think my mantra and the way I look at it is I want to keep it real, son. I want to get everything in the ground when it's supposed to, and I want to pass a product on when it's supposed to be passed on. If you pick it up late, I tell you, like if you come to me and you buy some cabbage in April, I'm gonna say, look, I'll sell you the cabbage, but you're probably not gonna get it, and it's gonna struggle. And if they take it, fine. But at the same time, they'll be like, well, what can I grow now? And then you start spreading your knowledge, and you say, well, you can grow tomatoes, cucumbers, you know, go down the list, and they'll walk away with something else. So you're not really trying to hustle anybody, but as you educate people and they learn more, they will buy more, and then they will come back to you because you help them and you help them learn more. And so that's the trick. Now, I told you earlier that I don't really like dealing with people. I get tired of it. It's just, I don't know, man, I'm just kind of weird like that. You know, I don't mind doing this stuff and commenting, and, you know, we're all like-minded for the most part on here. But when you start dealing with the general public, like, it gets kind of tough. So what I've started to do is, again, I'm taking orders from people that I've dealt with or people that I know, stuff like that. And that'll keep me going. But I'm actually working into starting seedlings and donating them to a local community garden that serves the needy. So it's not just people that don't have a space, it's people that just can't afford to eat. So we're working on that this year, and I really want to do that because it's a way that we can give back and help, and it's something that we're good at, so we can do that. So that's what we're trying to do now. We'll still sell some, but I'm not really setting up on roadsides or anything like that. It's very labor intensive, but this is a really good side hustle. You can make, you know, some pretty good money doing it. The first year, just like anything else, is going to be slow, and you keep doing it. Make sure you've got a good space for it. So you don't want to be having, you know, overcrowding issues and stuff like that. So just start what you can. You know, build onto your space a little bit, and when you make some money the first year, put that money towards it, expand your seed starting station, and then go from there, because that's going to help you to progress further and further and further. But if you're not putting out a quality product, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of how I went through all of the seed starting and selling it and really doing that. And what it did twofold is it helped me tremendously really hone in my seed starting skills over the years, because we were doing such volume. So if we didn't do our selling or our donating, whatever we're doing with them, then our seed starting shelf would be about halfway full over the year because of the size of our garden. So, but we max it out every year because we're trying to fill that space to give people what they need. So that's what we're doing. It does help, and I hope that you guys can try it. Like I said, it's a good way to get into making money off of your homestead, or even just your garden, however you look at your property. We did that, and then we got into the bees, and that took up most of my time. So it is what it is, but I hope this helps you, and I hope you, if you decide to do it, you take the right path and you stay strong in what you know. And if you've sold seedlings before, let us know in the comments and see what people think. I like to give them away, but what I've learned is once you put a dollar sign on something, it flies off the shelf a lot faster than if you give it away for free, because now somebody's got something wrapped up in it, and it's not just a seedling that they picked up on the side of the road. It's something they paid for.